Let's go. Okay, Rabbi, I think we're good to go. Okay, so we are, let's start the first.
Many sessions or?
No, that's it. In 20 minutes, I hope we'll have all the information we need.
Are you using this?
No, we're good. Okay, good evening, everyone. We're gonna have a quick class, hopefully, to go over the basics we need to know as consumers in the stores with regards to Shmita. So we're not going to discuss people's private gardens. You guys had a class on that with Rabbi Dan Gordon. What we're discussing now is you're going into stores, you're going into, you have different options of what to buy, what's going on, what are we doing. So the first thing is
I'm on the phone now, quiet.
blessing. Okay, Shmita is a zchut. We are fortunate that we are here in Eretz Yisrael and we get to keep this wonderful mitzvah. Every mitzvah you get to do is a mitzvah. It's a schos. It's a, it's not a problem. It's just a matter of learning what to do about it. And it's not a difficult thing. It's a mitzvah that every Jew should try to do. So where is Shmita relevant to us as a consumer? So if we bring in produce from Holland, they're going to bring me bell peppers from Holland. I don't have a problem. No problem. On Shmita, I can do whatever I want with those peppers. I'm not supposed to plant those seeds on the Shmita year, but I don't have a problem though. The peppers they have nothing to do with Shmita. They grew in Holland. They bring me shum, they bring me garlic from China. Nothing to do with Shmita. Okay, so produce that comes from Chutz La'aretz, that produce has nothing to do with Shmita. Shmita is only relevant inside the land of Eretz Yisrael. One step at a time. Okay. So when we speak about what we call chul, what we call produce from Chutz La'aretz, yevul means produce. So it's called yevul chul, the produce of Chutz La'aretz. That produce has no kedusha. There are no questions about it. It doesn't have the mitzvos of trumos and marshals or shmita, anything, nothing. Okay. American apples, no problem. So food that is imported, that's not our topic tonight. So a person will ask, is it preferable for me to buy my peppers from Chutz La'aretz? You'll figure that one out as we go through our learning tonight. Preferable or not preferable? Slowly. But when we buy food that's from Chutz La'aretz, so that food doesn't have any rules of Shmita applied there. Okay, that's step number one. Now we move on. We have food that grows in Eretz Yisrael. So here we'll discern between fruits and vegetables. Fruits, so our rule is that a fruit only has the holiness of Shmita when it reaches a third of its growth, when it reaches the stage that we call in halacha chanata, in the year of Shmita. So basically, all fruits that you're buying in the store in the next few months until Tu B'Shvat, all those fruits, even if they grow in Eretz Yisrael, they didn't really reach Hanata and Shmita. So you're going to see in the Makolet, everywhere you go, the fruits until well after Tu B'Shvat, all the fruits, they're really not Shmita fruits. The apples that you buy certainly don't have an issue of Shmita. And most of the fruits you buy, they're not Shmita yet. Shmita will be relevant for those fruits going into the next year. When do we start having Shmita fruits in the market? The fruits that are Shmita, that grew in the year of Shmita, those are the fruits that will hit the marketplace from Pesach onward. That's we will see Shmita fruit going into next year. And going past that, because the grapes that grow this coming year, the harvest of grapes is now, right after Rosh Hashanah, they harvest last year's grapes. Next year's grapes are going to be Shmita grapes. And they're going to make grape juice from that. And they're going to sell it going into the 8th year and the 9th year. And if you go into the stores and buy wine and grape juice 2, 3, 4 years from now, you will still find Shmita grape juice and wine in the stores.
So what is written on it that we know that it's?
We'll get there. It's going to say on it either, it's going to say Heter Mechira or Utsar Baitin. We're going to define those two terms in a minute. Okay. So if an item says Yevul Chul, what they're telling you is this is Chutzart's produce, this isn't Shmita fruit. So you will see that the How do you call cucumbers and brine? What's pickles? I'm losing my English now. Okay, the pickles. In a year from now, they're going to all say either heter mechira or yevul chul. Yevul chul means it comes from chutzarts. It has no kedusha. Okay, so we know yevul chul. It's chutzarts, fruits or vegetables. It's not relevant to Shmita. We know that fruits will only start being relevant for Shmita in another half a year. Okay, so all the fruits that you're buying in the marketplace today are not. Vegetables, on the other hand, vegetables go after lekita, after the harvest. So if I pick a cucumber the day after Shmita, the day after Rosh Hashanah, on Tzom Gedalia, I go into my yard, I pick a cucumber. That cucumber is a Shmita cucumber. From the minute Rosh Hashanah comes in, all vegetables that are picked, they have the rules of Shmita. They're considered Shmita vegetables, and we'll discuss what the relevance of that is in a minute. So for the next half a year, and until the end of the Shmita year, until next year's Sukkot, all the vegetables from Rosh Hashanah until the following year's Sukkot, until you get to plant new vegetables and harvest them, so all of those are Shmita vegetables. Technically, in the Shmita year, you're not allowed to plant in Eretz Yisrael anything. The Torah says, Lo tizra'u. You may not plant in the year of Shmita. So technically, if we would go back 1,000 years, if we would go back to the days of the Gaonim, or the days of the Beis Yosef, or the days of the Beis Hamikdash, so they didn't eat tomatoes in the year of Shmita. They didn't eat cucumbers in the year of Shmita, because there's no planting in the year of Shmita. So that means their diet was with legumes. Their diet was high in things with folic acid. Their body was getting its surge of legumes, basically. You know, they ate the grains that they had on storage from the previous years. They ate the things that they could store, or the things that grew on trees, because you're allowed to pick the stuff off the trees. Now, import was possible, but it was very expensive. So they didn't import bell peppers from Holland. So in the days up until our era, in Shmita, it meant you didn't eat vegetables because you couldn't plant vegetables. Now, so what we covered so far is that when we look at Shmita, what becomes relevant the morning after Rosh Hashanah is our vegetables. The vegetables that get picked from the morning after Rosh Hashanah, those are the vegetables that are going to be Shmita vegetables. Now, what does it mean if something is a Shmita vegetable? So the question becomes, well, I'm not supposed to do business with Shmita fruits and vegetables. I'm not supposed to do commerce. The Torah says that the Hayata Shabbat haaretz lachem leochla. When you rest on the Shmita year, the fruits and vegetables have to be available for consumption. And what the Torah is saying is they are available le'ochla, for consumption, velo lischora, and they're not there to do business with. So we're not allowed to do business with Shmita fruits and vegetables. So if I have a tree and my tree grows a lot of etrogim, I want to sell etrogim. Well, if those etrogim are Shmita etrogim, I'm not allowed to do business with those etrogim. So the Torah prohibits me. The Torah says the Shmita fruits and vegetables are there for consumption. You can go and pick them and eat them, but you're not supposed to do business with them. So now comes the question, so how do we manage in Eretz Yisrael in the year of Shmita if people want to buy tomatoes or cucumbers, etc.? So there are three options that you will find in the marketplace, and we'll analyze what are the pros and cons of each one. Option number one, in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, when the rabbis saw that people were not keeping Shmita the way they should. The Torah says, make your field available to everyone. Well, people didn't do that. They put locks on their fields, and they didn't allow other people access to the fields. So the rabbi said, if people aren't adhering to Shmita properly, we're going to intervene. And the rabbis took their courts, and they took over the fields of the individuals, and they said, we're taking your produce, and we will give it out. And this way, everyone will have access to the produce. So you don't have to allow people to access your field and worry that they're going to destroy it, but you're not going to lock up your field either. We're going to take the produce and we will distribute it for you. Now, this is the concept. It's quoted in the Tosefta. It's quoted in Nachmanides and the Ramban al Torah. This is the concept called Utsar Baitin. Utsar Baitin literally means the storage house of Baitin. What is Utsar Baitin? The court says, we take over the field for you, Mr. Farmer, and we will ensure that Shemitah is kept properly. We will ensure that prohibited tasks are not done in your field. We will ensure that the fruit gets distributed fairly to whoever wants.
Does this mean that it's only that tomatoes and cucumbers cannot be Utsar Baitin?
Correct. Oats are based and cannot have tomatoes and cucumbers because you're not allowed to plant on Shemitah. That's a machlokas. It's a good question because we said Gerek goes basar the kita, that it goes by the picking. That's a machlokas whether you can or cannot. So some say yes and some say no. Depends on which hechsher you'll go by.
Because an Utsar Baitin could come in, the LO plants a whole bunch of
Right.
vegetables
Right,
and say, we'll pick them.
right. And there are many respectable, but they didn't do that. Let's stay on topic and then we'll see the other sides. So oats are based in its purest form. So along comes the court and says to the farmer, hello, we're going to take over your field for you and distribute your crops fairly. There are little batei dinim that do this. So Rav Nissen Karelitz, Rav Landau, there are little batei dinim that go over to farmers and they tell the farmer, look, we'll oversee your crops for you and we'll distribute them with Utsar Baitin. Now what happens then is that they say to the farmer, we need you as a consultant. We don't know how to collect the crops in a good way. We don't know who the distributors are. We don't know how to market it. What we do know is how to keep the laws of Shemitah. So we're going to keep the laws of Shemitah in your field, and you're going to guide us how to give out your fruits. Now, we the courts, just a second, let's finish and then ask questions. We the courts have expenses, and we can charge people to cover our expenses. We're not selling the produce, but we will charge people to cover our expenses. So these smaller courts, what they do is they give out their fruits. They give them out, meaning if let's say I sign up for Rav Nissen Karelitz's Utsar Baitin, or I sign up for Rav Landau's Utsar Baitin, I can't walk into a store and just put the fruits on a scale and weigh them and pay for them. The Torah says, don't do commerce with the fruits of Shemitah. What can I do? I can tell them, I want to get from you a basket of apples. Now, again, Utsar Baitin is only relevant in a half a year with regards to the fruits, right? So I can tell them I want a basket of apples. And we don't weigh the apples. We don't count the apples. They tell me to bring you a basket of apples. Well, you're going to have to cover our costs. So one basket of apples with more or less going to cost you X price. That'll cover our costs. Now, they pay the farmer as the consultant. They pay the driver who brings the fruits. They pay the person who packages it. So your price is not so far from the price in the store. It's not the same price. It's not weighed the way the produce you buy in the store is. So that's the option of Utsar Baitin. Now, along came an organization and said a very noble thing. Utsar Haaretz said, we want to make available Utsar Baitin fruits for everyone, and we will give other areas, as we will discuss in a moment. We will provide other fruits that adhere to different rules of Shemitah, and you can sign up by us, and then you'll be able to get the Utsar Baitin fruits and vegetables. In a theoretical sense, that's a very good thing what they do, because they provide Utsar Baitin fruits to the army, and they provide to Rami Levi, and they provide throughout the country. And by doing this, they make it possible for many, many farmers to adhere to Shemitah. If everything were run correctly, then Utsar Haaretz is a wonderful thing. The question is everything run by them correctly? Utsar Baitin is the concept. Utsar Haaretz is a specific brand.
Got it.
So Utsar Haaretz doesn't only do Utsar Baitin, because starting next week, Utsar Haaretz will be providing vegetables. Starting next week, Utsar Haaretz will be bringing a lot of produce, and we're going to discuss where they bring their produce from. The question is Utsar Haaretz doing everything in accordance with what we would expect them to do? And that's a good question that is up to each person to verify. Last Shemitah cycle, we brought them into the yeshuv, and everything we thought that they told us that they would do, there were many things that they had promised they would do that they did not live up to. They didn't label their fruits to tell us what is Shmita, what is Utsar fruits, etc. They didn't. They said they wouldn't weigh the fruits. They did. They said they wouldn't sell the fruits to non-Jews. They did. There were a lot of things that they said they would only provide it in this issue. They said they wouldn't sell it in Rami Levi, and then they did. Now, you're not supposed to give Shemitah fruits to non-Jews. So to take based in holy fruits of Shemitah and give them and sell them at Rami Levi, we asked them. They said, no, we're not doing that. We're only selling in Jewish yeshuvim. Then they went ahead and they sold in other places. And they went. So again, whether you trust them or not, every person will do their own homework. But in theory, what they're doing is very good. It's a question of trust, meaning you're working with the question when you're dealing with any kashrus organization is, am I trusting them that I'm getting the produce they're telling me? Am I trusting them that the produce is being taken care of the way a basin should run? The whole concept is by having a basin in the picture, it's going to be done right. So our experience in the yeshuv, after about a month or two, that we saw that some of the things that said they would do here, they weren't doing. At some point, Rabbi said to them, this isn't fair. You promised us a pamphlet for every citizen to explain to them what to do with oats-based fruit. You never gave out pamphlets. There were a list of things that they had told us when they came here that they would do, and suddenly we saw they weren't doing it. So at some point, Rabbi Bachko said to them, that's it, you guys can't continue here, and the Makolet shifted away from them. That was last Shemitah. So now, did they shape up their act this year? Is a good question. Every person has to do their own homework and figure out where they're holding this year. Let's move on to understand the other options that we have. Again, theoretically, Utsar Haaretz is a great option. If they're doing what they say they're doing, they're very, very good. Meaning the only question is, can we
Watermelon?
that they're doing it?
Do we have a question from the audience?
Okay.
Marcy, put yourself on mute, please.
Okay, we move on. Now, what are our other options when it comes to Shemitah? So the borders of the land of Israel are very relevant when it comes to Shemitah. Meaning when you go south in the land of Israel, what's called the Arava, when you go south in the land of Israel, so there are parts of the land of Israel which do not have the holiness of Shemitah. So farmers from down there develop a lot of produce that is sold here in Israel. Now, one of the questions that we ask ourselves when it comes to Shemitah is, how careful should I be not to buy Arab produce? Meaning, some claim that by Jews buying Arab produce, which we'll get to in a moment, if you buy Arab produce, you're hurting the Jewish farmer and you're paying a lot of money to the Palestinians. So we need to know two things. We need to know, is it true? Meaning, is this true that the Palestinians are benefiting so much from the Shemitah here? And we also have to know, if it's not Shemitah, whose produce are you buying? Meaning, today, you went to the Makolet and you bought tomatoes. Were they Palestinian tomatoes or not? Last year, were they Palestinian tomatoes or not? For a long time, the tomatoes we had in our own Makolet were Turkish tomatoes. Okay, they were imported from Turkey. So when you say, look, I have to buy from the Jewish farmer, so you have to be consistent. Buy from the Jewish farmer. Great, it's a good thing, but do it for 7 years. Don't only do it on Shemitah. Meaning it's an important concept, but it's important 7 years. It's not only important on Shemitah. Now, in a moment, we'll discuss Arab-grown food and what's the benefits and losses of that. But when we look at the possibility of buying fruits or vegetables right now, after Shemitah, after Rosh Hashanah, our best option, which covers everything, is if we can buy Arava, if we can buy Jewish-grown vegetables from the south, that's great. Then you're great. We said that Utsar Baitin vegetables you're not really going to have, because Utsar Baitin, the Baitin can't plant on Shemitah here. They don't have a license to go planting during Shemitah. So where am I getting my vegetables from? Either I'm getting it from Futsarts, or I'm getting it from parts of Eretz Yisrael that do not have the holiness of Shemitah. Now we're going to go to my next two options. Okay, so we have parts of Eretz Yisrael which are Jewish grown, and they Jewish farmers, and still it doesn't have the holiness of Shemitah, so I can get vegetables from there. Now, I asked the Makolet, and they told me, our Makolet here at Yenot Bitan, that I explained to them that we, the consumers, want to know where our vegetables are coming from. And Mrs. Vanessa Haney said to me that she will, Bezrat Hashem, she asked the kashrus organization, they got kashrut on their vegetables, and she asked them for a list, a daily list, but she said it'll probably only have to be updated either weekly or bi-weekly, but a daily list of where each vegetable is coming from, so you can go right by the kashrus certificate and see where am I getting my vegetables from. And if you see that it says Arava or Darom, meaning the south, you know that this is Jewish grown vegetables, and you're fine. You're fine with everything. Okay, that's a great option. Now we move on to two more options. About 500-600 years ago, here in Eretz Yisrael, the farmers were in a dire state, and the rabbis of the time said that if we don't find a solution, then we're endangering all the Jews living in Eretz Yisrael. So they came up with a concept called Heter Mechira. And this concept was reinstated a little over 100 years ago in Eretz Yisrael. The concept of Heter Mechira basically says that we turn to a non-Jew and we say, can we sell you this land for the year of Shemitah? We'll buy it back after Shemitah. Now, what did we accomplish if we sold it to a non-Jew? That's a good question. It's not obvious that we accomplished anything because let's say Muhammad, our neighbor, grows tomatoes in the land of Israel. Well, maybe those tomatoes are holy. So we will come back to Heter Mechira in just a minute. Let's analyze Yevul Nochri, okay? We're leaving Heter Mechira for just a minute. We're going to come back to Heter Mechira, but in order to better understand it, we have to understand what happens with non-Jewish owned land in Eretz Yisrael. So we have our neighbor Muhammad. Muhammad has a farm and he grows tomatoes. Those tomatoes that grow in the land of Israel during the Shemitah year, well, Muhammad wants to work his field on Shemitah. What am I supposed to do? It's his field. Muhammad wants to plant on Shemitah. What am I supposed to do? It's his field. Muhammad picks his tomatoes and comes to Machne Yehuda and says, who wants to buy my tomatoes? So now comes a new question. Muhammad's tomatoes grew in the Holy Land of Israel in the year of Shemitah. What he did in his field is not my business. But now the question is differently. The question is, when I buy those fruits, are they holy with the holiness of Shemitah? Now we have to discuss what it means that a fruit or a vegetable is holy with the holiness of Shemitah. And now we have the background. We know that Utsar Baitin, the fruits that grow under Beis Din's rule, well, that's holy. That's Shmita fruits. The vegetables that grow by Muhammad, so that's a machlokas. It's a machlokas in the Mishnah. It's a machlokas in the Gemara. And it's a machlokas that dates back to the days of Rabbi Yosef Karo. It's a machlokas till today. If you go to Badatz Eida Haredis of Yerushalayim, they hold vehemently, like Rabbi Yosef Karo held in his younger days, and that is that the fruits that grow in Muhammad's field, what we call halachically Yevul Nochri, the produce of the non-Jew. Remember, the produce of Chutz La'aretz is called Yevul Hu. The produce of the non-Jew is called Yevul Nochri. Yevul means produce. So the produce of a non-Jew, Rav Yosef Karo in his younger years held that it has no holiness. That means you can do whatever you want with it. You can eat it before it's fully ripe. You can decide that you want to mash it on your head, maybe smash tomatoes on your head will make some hair grow. You can do whatever you want with it. The fruit of Shemitah has a rule, we said, le'ochla. It has to be consumed. It has to be eaten in accordance with the regular way that food is eaten, which means you're not supposed to eat it when it's not fully ripe. Wait for it to be ripe. You're not supposed to do something with it that's not called eating. So let's say I buy Utsar Baitin apples. Now I give my 2-year-old the apples. My 2-year-old takes 3 bites and throws it across the room. Now what? I pick it up and it's not so edible. It landed in whatever. So now it's not so edible. My 3-year-old took the fruits of the Utsar Baitin fruits. I gave him and he mushed them up. My 3-year-old took the grape juice that I gave him that was Utsar Baitin and started pouring it around the house. Wait a second. What am I supposed to do now? So the first thing you're supposed to do is say, Baruch Hashem, I'm living in the land of Israel. I'm keeping Shmita. I have holy foods that my siblings can only dream about. I have kids in the land of Israel who are making a balagan in my house. What bracha I have? Don't get all uptight. Hey, it's Shmita, it's holy. Come on, it's a schus. You have kids. It's a schus. You have holy food. It's true that we try not to waste. We try not to destroy the fruits of Shmita. But that doesn't mean that in the year of Shmita, you should be all uptight. Hey, this is holy food. Don't destroy it. It's true. We try to treat it normally. Part of being normal is that your kids will make a mess. Part of being normal is that your kids will destroy some of the fruits, and that's okay. It's not okay to be uptight. Then you're not going to do the mitzvah. You're going to say, I can't handle this. I'm not bringing holy foods into my house. That's wrong. Shmita is a mitzvah for all of us. Shmita is a mitzvah that's supposed to be observed in every single home. You're supposed to have holy food in your home. According to the Ramban, you make a special bracha. We don't do it like this. That's not our minhag. But according to the Ramban, you hold an apple of Shmita, you make a bracha on the mitzvah of Shmita that you have, that you're eating holy food of Eretz Yisrael. So people run away from this mitzvah. They say, I'm not buying Utsar Baitin. I'm going to go buy Muhammad's apples. Why? Why? So people say, I can't handle it. My kids make a mess. I pour the grape juice into Havdalah, and I forget that I'm not supposed to make it overflow. Okay, so you're human. Good. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Wait, is that the same thought process of the southern fruits, the arava?
No,
But it's-
harava fruits, you don't have the mitzvah of Shemitah.
But
But-
you're running away from the.
You're running away from the mitzvah, but you can't buy Shemitah vegetables in a month from now. There's no Shemitah vegetables. Mr. Barlev mentioned that there is an opinion, a legitimate opinion, that says that if you plant tomatoes today and you pick them in a week, that's okay. There is such an opinion. So you might have tomatoes for a week. That's Shemitah tomatoes. But in 2 weeks, you won't have them anymore.
What about feeding it to your animals?
You're not allowed to feed it to your animals.
Can't use that.
The Gemara Darshans L'ochla, whatever is fit for human consumption has to be eaten by a human. You're not allowed to take your apple and give the half the apple to your dog. Sorry. Shmita fruit is meant for humans.
But the Chazon Ish says that the Arabs broke from, that is also a conception.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We said we'll come back to that. It's a very good point. You're right. We'll get back to that. So
Could it go into the compost?
we'll get there. Reuven, that's a good question. We'll get there. We'll get there about compost. So let's just go in order. Let's recap what we have until now, and then we'll go forward. Okay. So step one, we said that we're not allowed to plant in Shemitah. We said that fruits will only be relevant to Shemitah after Pesach, after Tu B'Shvat. Fruits go by Chanoto, the year during which they reach a third of their growth. So after Tu B'Shvat, 2 or 3 months after Tu B'Shvat of the 7th year, that's when you start having kadosh fruit of Shemitah running into the 8th year. So when something is kadosh, when it grows in the land of Israel and it has the holiness of Shemitah, then that fruit has certain rules. What are the rules? We said, le'ochla, I'm supposed to eat it. I'm not supposed to do business with it. Le'ochla, I'm supposed to eat it when it's fit for human consumption, not when it's only half ripe. Le'ochla, I'm supposed to eat it, and I'm not supposed to do something else with it. I'm not supposed to feed it to Betsy, my cow. I'm not supposed to feed it to Fido, my dog. I'm supposed to eat the fruits. I'm not supposed to be uptight about it. So if the kid destroys part of the fruit, that's fine. Now, if I'm not supposed to destroy the fruit, so am I allowed to put it in compost? So that depends. I'm not supposed to do something that's directly destructive to the fruit. So if I finished eating the apple, there's nothing really edible left in it, so I could put it in the garbage. Some people want to be very careful. They say, you know what, I don't really finish my apples. When I finish eating my apple, if my mother was here, she'd show me how there's still a lot to be eaten in that apple. So I'm still leaving some edible part on that apple. I don't want to destroy kadosh Shemitah fruit. So I'm going to give myself a separate bag, and I'm going to put the Shemitah fruit in that bag. And then that way, if I put it in the regular garbage, I'm taking an apple that still has edible food on it, and I'm putting it in the garbage where afterwards I'm going to pour my ketchup on it and all my schmutz on it, and I'm going to destroy it. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be extra careful. You want to be extra careful? No problem. but don't do it the way people did do it. People say, I have a special pach shmita, I have a special garbage pail for shmita. They leave it in their kitchen. They wait until the fruit decomposes. When it decomposes, they have a bunch of flies and bugs that go into their food, and it's annoying, and suddenly it becomes all complicated. You want to have a pach shmita? Here's the way to do it. You take whatever fruit or vegetable you finished eating, put it in a bag, close the bag, throw it in the garbage. Now, if you pour into the garbage your floor cleaner or anything else, you put the Shmita fruit in a bag. You don't have to worry that anything's going to destroy it. You didn't destroy it. The whole concept of a Pach Shmita is a chumrah, but it's a logical chumrah. It makes sense. So, okay, you want to do that chumrah, then do it in a way that you could live with it. If people make the special garbage pail, a garbage pail for Sunday and for Monday and for Tuesday, because now Sunday's decomposed. They end up having a kitchen filled with flies. It becomes annoying and very hard to run your kitchen that way. So you accomplish the same chumrah if you put the fruits or vegetables, whatever. People say, if you're going to peel your carrot, here in Israel, most people eat their carrots with the peel on. Most people eat their cucumbers with the peel on. So if you're going to peel your cucumber, you're taking off an edible part of your cucumber. Well, you're going to peel an apple. You don't want to eat the peel. So you're not allowed to just discard of Shmita fruit, but no one wants to eat it. You know how kids are? If you want to save the peel, everyone wants to eat it. If you say everyone can have the peel, suddenly no one wants it. So now you're stuck with a plate filled with peels and no one wants to eat the peels of your apple. No problem. What would you do on a regular day? You throw it out. So put it in a bag, close the bag, put it in the garbage. Now, even if you pour stuff that's destructive into the garbage, the fruit is protected. You didn't destroy Shmita fruit. But to start doing what people do and put a pach shmita in your kitchen, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it ends up being very hard on the mothers and very hard on keeping a kosher kitchen. I think our Zoom session will end in 10 minutes. We should have used my Zoom account. Okay. So we'll restart. If the Zoom session ends, people can log in after about 20 seconds. We'll set up a new meeting with the same passcode, I assume, right?
We'll see.
Well, it depends if he
Yeah.
likes everyone.
Yeah, right?
Okay. Yes.
If you're gonna kid who always chucks the apple across the room, is really probably gonna be he throws his apple to my all the time. I think he chucks it.
Why'd you give him apples? Why'd you give him an apple before Shmita?
We have a pach shmita for last Christmas.
Okay, it works for you, right? You're giving it to him, obviously. So if you give it to him because it's entertaining, so don't do it. If you're giving it to him because you're concerned for his well-being and this is part of his diet, so do it. And Shmita too. Whatever's normal is what you can do. So achla means the normal way to eat.
You can use it as shampoo. you can use it-
Now, I want to go back to clearing off the table. So you're sitting on Shabbos of Shmita. Are the people still with me?
Yeah, everybody's still here.
Okay. You're sitting on Shabbos of Shmita and you want to clear off the table. Now you look at the table and there's a little bit of grapefruit and a little bit of orange, and this kid left a little bit of an apple, and you can do one of two things. You can get all uptight. It's Shmita, don't throw it out, blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, it's okay. I wrap it up into my plastic, if you have a plastic tablecloth. If not, pull it all into a bag. On Shabbos, you can't tie the bag, right? So you'll just roll it shut, put it in the garbage, move on with your life. You have to realize that chumros that keep you away from keeping a mitzvah are not good chumros. If people are going to start being machmir, I can't discard all the Shmita fruit. Well, so don't, so fine. So if you use the plastic tablecloth, close up the plastic tablecloth and throw that out. That's fine, that's good enough. If you didn't use a plastic tablecloth, so collect it into a disposable bag and roll up that bag and throw that out. But to start getting all uptight, wait, there's still Shmita produce on the table. Now what am I going to do? That doesn't work. People sit at the Seder and they use kadosh wine. They use Shmita wine. Now, if you have a normal Seder, then people spill at the Seder. If you're not normal, maybe you don't spill at the Seder. If you're normal, you do. So now what are you going to do? Absolutely nothing. It's part of the normal way of running a Seder, and you don't have to worry about it. And when people do worry about it, they ruin the mitzvah for themselves and they ruin it for their kids. So what about dams for de'akinim when you dip your finger in the wine? So I guess you'll have to lick it off. Or you'll have to pour it back into a cup. Yeah, you will not, I'm saying you will have to drink that grape juice, right? And if you remember, then during the Shmita year, if you're using Shmita grape juice or wine, so in Havdalah, you will not overflow the cup. Unless you do what it says in Shulchan Aruch, which is drink the water the grape juice that overflowed from the cup, which most people don't want to do because our customers like they're okay, I have to put out the candle in that grape juice. So if you're not going to drink it, then don't make it overflow. Okay, so we covered so far the concept of kadosh, of fruits that have kedusha of Shmita. We covered Utsar Baitin, and we're in the middle of the concept of Yevul Nochri, non-Jewish produce that grows in the land of Eretz Yisrael. So we discussed that it's a machlokas from the days of the Tanaim, Rabbi Meir and Chachamim, all the way till our days today, whether the fruit or vegetables that grow in a non-Jew's land, in Muhammad, our neighbor's land here in Eretz Yisrael, whether that has kedusha of Shemitah or not. Now we understand the relevance, whether the tomato I buy from Muhammad here in Colombia, whether that is kadosh or not, we understand the relevance. Do I have to be careful that it doesn't get destroyed unnecessarily? Let's say I have a tomato that's half rotten. So if I want to eat the half good part, good. And if not, so I'll be able to put it in a bag and it'll decompose on its own. I'm not supposed to directly destroy it. So same concept. Is everyone on board? Any questions still here? Can we move on? Yes. Well, if you have to put it in a bag, meaning don't destroy it.
Then you said that was a summer to put in the bag?
Yes, but it's a correct one.
That was a putting it in a sweet stuff.
Shemitah garbage ends up having bugs in the kitchen. It ends up being more problematic.
Wait, but if no one's eat that, said the second, said the tomato beans have been folded. So the beef on the way, that's not.
Make her a dinner tonight. You're right. But, okay, let's move on. So we said that Shemitah produce has a certain holiness. It has certain halachas that pertain to it. So now I'm going to make a soup. I'm making a soup. And into the soup, I'm putting in some onions that are kadosh. They're Shemitah onions. Now the whole soup has to be treated like Shemitah. Meaning all the rules of Shmita fruit apply now to the whole soup. That means I'm going to drink it, I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to waste it, and I'm not going to throw it out unnecessarily. That's basically the idea. That's the concept. Le'ochla. It's meant to be eaten. So the way we normally run a kitchen is we don't throw out food unless it spoils. Okay, same is true for Shmita produce. It's not so complicated. What happens, a person asked me, maybe it was you, Jonathan, 7 years ago, can he make banana bread? That
That
was
sounds
you,
like,
right?
that's a question I would ask.
So I don't know the answer to that because part of the rule of le'ochla is that it has to be used for normal human consumption. Sorry, Jonathan. But when I asked him, Neventhal, is banana bread considered normal human consumption? He didn't either.
I mean, it's the, what else do you do with like soft bananas?
I hear you. I just don't know. I'm saying he has ideas for you.
The question is it better to throw these bananas out or use them in the top?
Makes sense to make the muffins, but again, I don't know the answer. I can't tell you what I don't know. Logic says like it.
Why doesn't that change with the time as people insist on it?
Maybe it does.
That is a normal thing.
Really? When was the last time you ate banana bread? You ate banana bread. You ate banana bread. What? Okay,
It's not so crazy. It's not,
I hear you. I don't know.
I see people that will scrape, that will use the banana peels and cook that in a certain. That's probably not so acceptable. In 20 years in.
So I have a
I
question.
don't know. Say that. I can't answer what I don't know.
What's the benefit of buying comparison?
In a minute, we'll get there. We didn't get there yet. So, so
I have a
now
question.
back to
Oh, wait,
Yevul.
we have a question. Hold on.
Yes, question.
You didn't answer the question about compost, not garbage, compost. If I finish my apple and I have what to throw out, do I just wrap it up in paper towel and throw it directly into the compost pile? Or do I leave it for a day or two outside and then put it into the compost pile?
If you have a way of wrapping it in a paper or whatever, that's great. Then there's no problem. And for sure you could put it in the compost pile. I'm saying,
Right away?
why not? If it's wrapped in
Okay.
paper, then by the time it hits, when the compost starts affecting it, it won't be edible anyways.
Okay, and on Shabbos? Any
What's
difference?
About Shabbos?
Throwing out vegetable peels, whatever,